We have multiple Oiler updates, many of which are surprising, as this could change everything for the Oilers, as they are down 2-1 to the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final, and the Oilers hoping to bounce back tomorrow night at the Amerant Bank Arena. All that more today on Oilers Digest. It's an off day for the Oilers, but it is not an off day here for the channel, and we are very close to 3,400 subscribers on the road to 4,000. So if you haven't done so already, folks, make sure you hit that button down below for any and all Oiler news there. I hate seeing that number 63 there, Brad Marchand, the rat, but it just helps us get that much closer to our target. But without further ado, let's get right into it with the optional skate. Yes, optional being in quotations there is pretty much all the Oilers were out on the ice for the optional skate this morning. They had a full practice yesterday after, getting their butt kicked 6-1 by the Florida Panthers there, and they have their eyes set on the prize there. But we have some news regarding some Oiler defensemen there. Jake Woolman was fined $5,000, the maximum allowed under the collective bargaining agreement, for roughing Florida's Matthew Tkachuk. Of course, that's what player safety is worried about, and not Sam Bennett going after Stuart Skinner. But hey, what do I know? And he was also fined $5,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct for an incident involving Florida's bench, where he squirted water at Florida's bench, and apparently that cost you $5,000. So again, the league going after the things that matter more than actual player safety on the ice. And from Jake Walman to Evan Bouchard, as he finished 11th in Norris Trophy voting there. So congratulations to Evan Bouchard. Hopefully next year he can crack the top 10 there. Some of this very, very surprising. Who gave Brock Faber a 5th place vote? I'd love to know that. But again, a lot of deserving names on this list here. And congrats to Cale Makar for winning his 2nd Norris Trophy there. But the thing that really matters here, Oilers Panthers tomorrow night, because of the NBA tonight, the NBA Finals. So that bumped the NHL to tomorrow night there, Thursday, June 12th. Oilers Panthers in Game 4. It's not so much a literal do or die here for the Oilers, but it's a do or die. I mean, you don't want to go back to Edmonton down 3-1 there, and the Oilers just washed Game 3 away there. They completely forgot about it, and on to bigger and better things here. From a grizzled vet, Corey Perry, you can't dwell on things you can't change. You can't change the outcome after the game is ended. You look at what you didn't do right, or what you can improve on, or however you want to say it, and take some positives out of it, or whatever, but you have to flush it. The next one's the biggest one, and that's how we think about it. Yeah, we lost the game. Get ready for the next one. Move on. And the thing that, many of the Oiler players have reiterated time and time again, you can't get yourself caught into Florida's game. I mean, if you look at the first 3 rounds, the Oilers played their style, dictated the play, and that's why you see them in the Stanley Cup Final, and then you see them next to the Florida Panthers, who obviously, with their style, that's how they also got to the Stanley Cup Final. Both teams doing it their own way there, and the Oilers getting sucked into that, and taking the bait every single time there. That doesn't mean the Oilers can't play physical, throw a hit there, here or there, but you just can't get sucked into the scrums after the whistles there. But for the rest of the Oilers, again, just throw Game 3 in the trash there. Again, another grizzled vet here, Mattias Ekholm, on Game 3. You know what? You just have to have a goldfish mentality and forget about it. I closed that book last night with Game 3 on Monday, as I did with Game 1, even after the Oilers won, and I did with Game 2. You got to look at it as it's one game. We're looking for the whole series. We know we're down 2-1, and we got to be better next game, but we're 1 win away from having the best 2 out of 3 with 2 home games, and that's the real important marker here for the Oilers. If there's a potential Game 7, it will be at Rogers Place instead of enemy territory down in Florida there, so you got to keep that in the back of your mind. Hopefully the Oilers can get it done in 6, but again, a potential Game 7 means it's back on home turf. But you got to think ahead to the now there from Greg Wyshynski, an optional skate for the Oilers, but they're having a well-attended one today at the practice rink in Florida, including McDavid and Draisaitl there. Adding on to that was Gene Principe, saying it was expected to be a quiet day away from the rink, but unofficially 16 skaters for the Oilers, including, like I mentioned, 97 and 29. So the Stars leading by example there, back on the ice 2 days in a row there. So obviously their focus back onto game number 4, and that's the important part here for the Oilers. Of course, you could mope around for 2 days, or you get back on the ice and practice what you've been doing best for, pretty much the last, 8-9 months that this whole unit has been together there. And Kris Knoblauch, he mentions, the oldest team in the league, but they are also a very mature group, unlike, what we saw in the third period. I mean, that's kind of an oxymoron, but still, oldest group in the league. That means they've been through a lot, and we're very fortunate to have the group of guys that we have in the room. They are fabulous, they are mature, they're focused, and they handle success very well, but they also handle adversity very well, and we're just going to need that maturity to move forward. There's from yesterday's practice here from Tony Brar of Oilers TV. Pretty much the only thing that changed was, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins not on the ice and Jeff Skinner being in his spot there. It was the same exact thing for the optional skate today, another maintenance day for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The rest stayed the same. Yesterday, of course, being an optional skate today, there were no official line rushes, so nothing official there. But some updates from Kris Knoblauch from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet said one potential lineup change, did not confirm a starting goalie in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Again, a game time decision there. And we all saw, the question, do you run Cal Pickard or do you run Stuart Skinner? But with a stat line like this in game number 4s, sometimes you gotta, run with the numbers here and start the guy who's been proven in a very niche category, but still, it's a category nonetheless. Stuart Skinner career in game 4, 6-0 record, 1.26 goals against average with a .955 save percentage in 2 shutouts there. And another, I don't want to say, awful performance from Stuart Skinner. Is not all of it was his fault. It was just the entire team being flat right out of the gate against the Florida Panthers. But I could see the reason for a Cal Pickard start. But again, you got to go with the guy who's gotten you to this way after Cal Pickard was hurt in the Vegas series there. Of course, Stuart Skinner's save percentage, the playoff save percentage dropping below 900 once again there. But he's always been, somewhat decent after a loss there. And, being pulled for Pickard could be a little bit of a mini reset there. And another change Kris Knoblauch could make is the D pairings switch up. Bring the Nurse Whisperer back with Troy Stecher there. You can see the stats. Stecher and Nurse there, outscoring opponents 2-0 when they're on the ice together, of course being outshot. But just the way, Troy Stecher plays with Darnell Nurse. Nurse needs a puck mover next to him so desperately there in Nurse and Klingberg. Yeah, it wasn't so good in game number 3 there, but Nurse and Stecher, I mean, the stats are there. Very proven pair there with Stecher and Nurse there. That's really the only change on the defense I could see Kris Knoblauch making there. But Troy Stecher, a respected member of this Oiler team. Troy has been very valuable to our team throughout the regular season in the playoffs, and I think probably one thing that we as coaching staff appreciate a lot from Troy is just how dependable he is, no matter if he's playing big minutes regularly, hasn't played for a long period of time. Anytime that we've needed him, he's given us really good minutes and usually not making mistakes. And as a defenseman, that's really important there. And sort of my idea of a perfect lineup, well, not so much a perfect lineup. I mean, Zach Hyman would be healthy in this scenario, but run something like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid in, Corey Perry, and then Kane, Draisaitl, and Kasperi Kapanen. Jeff Skinner in for Trent Frederic there, as that Frederic Henrique Brown line should have been disbanded yesterday. But you bring in a scoring touch in the bottom 6 there with Jeff Skinner on that third line. In a perfect world, I'd have Skinner on that top line with McDavid, and I'd have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins centering the third line there, with Henrique being bumped down to the 4th. But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins seems to be battling some sort of, arm, shoulder, hand, wrist injury, whatever it is. But in the third period of game number 2, you can see Ryan Nugent-Hopkins deferring the face-offs there to Evander Kane there. So I wouldn't have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins take face-offs. I'd have him on the wing next to Connor McDavid there. And on the 4th line, a bit of an energy line with Vasily Podkolzin and Matisse Janmark in Victor Arvidsson. Of course, no disrespect to Trent Frederic, but he's obviously not 100%. And it's, at this point of the season, you can't take a risk playing a guy who's, hurt and hasn't really brought anything to the lineup there. Sure, he started that brouhaha with cross-checking Sam Bennett, but other than that third line, especially with a guy that's not 100% with Trent Frederic's ankle injury, that is just not something that you can risk this late into the season when your season is nearly on the line. And on the back end, I've, praised, the Ekholm Bouchard pairing time and time again here on the channel, but I think it's time we split it up with Brett Kulak next to Evan Bouchard, where the numbers have been pretty fantastic next to each other, and then you put Wallman on the right side with Matthias Ekholm, and then Nurse in Troy Stetcher there, and Stuart Skinner getting the start in net. But it all starts with your star players, with McDavid in Draisaitl leading by example, like you saw at the optional skate there, where hopefully they will bounce back, as after a loss in the playoffs, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl own a 1.83 and a 1.50, yes, points per games played average following a loss in the playoffs. And of course, the only other players in NHL history averaging over those numbers are Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, so some fantastic company for them. But you just need McDavid and Draisaitl again to spark something within this team. We've seen the depth carry the Oilers, not so much carry the Oilers, but help the Oilers to get to where they are right now. But sometimes you need McDavid and Draisaitl to play the best hockey of their careers at this point. I don't want to say put it all on them like we did in the past. I mean, where it's pretty much McDavid and Draisaitl running the entire team, but you just need to get them to spark the entire team and get something going, as scoring in Florida has been very scarce between the 2024 and 2025 Stanley Cup Finals. But that is it for today's video. We will be back tomorrow with a Game 4 preview. A huge swing game, as I mentioned. You either go back to Edmonton tied at 2, or you go back to Edmonton down 3-1. So a very important game, and we will get you set up for that one too. Let me know down in the comments what your preferred lineup would be. What would your forward lines be? What would your D pairs be? And more importantly, who would be starting in net for you? I'm very curious to see what all line combinations you all have to bring to me in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe here to the channel for any and all Oiler news. Folks, enjoy the rest of the day today. It's the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. I'm Matt.